There are videos on my channel about the Ratty Chopper, about M72, about K750, about Minsk generators, about scooter generators, but none of that would have happened if it wasn't for this motorcycle. I had a couple of videos made about this bike many years ago, but well, I moved the bike to the middle of the barn, put it on a center stand and propped it up from below with a stump. I wouldn't recommend you to see them. At first glance, this is just an ordinary 1988 Dnepr 11, but what makes this motorcycle special is its history, and let me tell you, it's long. This bike has been in our family since it was brand new. My father bought it. I grew up on this bike. This is my first motorcycle. Theoretically, it's not mine, it's my father's, but I've put a ton of work into this machine, so I think my father won't be offended if I call it mine too. Actually, the first motorcycle I got behind the bars of was my father's 6-volt Yawa. I kinda rode it for a year and then I got on this thing. And right after the first ride, I realized I never want to ride two-stroke bikes again. I'm not trying to roast two-stroke bikes here. No, they're awesome machines. It's just that I personally prefer old 4-strokes. Exactly with this bike, I went to discos to neighboring villages to hang out with girls. It was with this bike that when I was riding through a field at night and I fell in this field and broke my collarbone. It was this bike that I rode for long-distance rides with. It was this bike that was the very first one I modified to be a bobber. I had spent a year as a bobber and then I returned it to original. It's got no serious modifications to the engine. It's got a Saruman ETA box, it's got a 2-wire car ignition coil, it's got an optical sensor and a Vaz ignition module here. I ported the cylinder heads, meaning I increased the diameters off and polished the intake and exhaust ports. And the final drive has the 9-teeth pair in it. Works absolutely everything except the charging light because I have a car voltage regulator here. The only but, the speedometer lies by 25-30 kilometers per hour. Also, long ago for this engine I bored a couple of cylinders for 79mm L-mod pistons. And in addition to all this, I bought a set of SM Vaz piston rings. These cylinders were also shortened to increase the compression ratio, but now in this engine I have an excellent top end, excellent compression, and just monstrous pull. So for now I'll ride with this top end, and someday in the future I'll install that 79mm set and we'll see how it performs. Now in this configuration it goes just unrealistically good. I don't know how it does it, but it just rips. When I ride for long distances with this bike on a highway, its cruising speed 80-90 kilometers per hour and holds it no problems at all. When I pass someone, I give it gas, it goes 110-120, piece of cake. Now 80 to 120 kilometers per hour, it's about 55-75 miles per hour, which seems to be pretty slow, right? But again, this thing is basically a mini truck with a sidecar intended to go around the field 15 miles per hour with 200 kilos in a sidecar. These KMZ Dneprs and K750s are not about speed, they are torque machines. So 60-65 cruising speed for basically a low-end truck is actually pretty good. The only real flaw about this whole motorcycle is the crooked wheels. I'm just too lazy to disassemble him and lace him back properly. So at the speed over 100, it starts jumping pretty badly. It's got NOS Soviet valve seats and 4 exhaust valves. I'll tell you sometime later why I've installed 4 exhaust valves here. I first pulled this motorcycle out from under a pile of junk in 2008. It had 1 carburetor conversion, a murdered front end, butchered shocks, and engine oil which was probably changed very, very rarely. Dad, I'm sorry. No, I don't blame my father for anything. In fact, I'm insanely grateful to him. He could have sold this Dnepr at any moment, but he didn't. As a result of which, I got such a great friend for life. Back in 2008, I drove a couple of blocks with the sidecar and realized that a sidecar with this bike was not for me. I unhooked the sidecar, installed 2 carburetors, installed a new front fork, and started riding with this bike. For a pretty long time, this was the only bike I had. Later, I bought a second Dnepr, which now I have as a sidecar bike, and then gradually I acquired the rest of my motorcycles. But this particular bike is my favorite one. Long story short, there's nothing special about this motorcycle. The most interesting thing about it is its history. It was with this bike that through trial and error, I learned how to repair engines, gearboxes, shock absorbers, forks, final gears, and everything else. The clutch and flywheel have never been removed from this engine, and the crankshaft has never been pulled out. So yes, the rear crankshaft seal is the original one from the factory, and it leaks oil big time. These scratches, this dent, the torn headlight mount, the battered dash, this is all from the moment when I fell in the field and broke my collarbone. This is exactly why I don't want to paint this or any other of my bikes. Because in scratches like these on the fender, on the dash, here in the gas tank, and all of this lies the history of this motorcycle. These are its scars. And thanks to these scars, I remember certain moments from my life that were in one way or another connected with this bike. And also because of these cars, this Dnepr is different from the rest, the other same Dneprs. To me personally, these scratches look way prettier than a perfectly painted bike. So there's nothing mind-blowing about this bike, I'm just paying a tribute to it by making a video about it. And this motorcycle is really worthy, and more than of one video, because without it, I probably wouldn't have other bikes, I wouldn't have the chopper, I wouldn't have a YouTube channel, and I wouldn't have experienced all the things that came to me on the way with this Dnepr. So this Dnepr was, remains, and will always be my favorite Dnepr, because I grew up with it. I learned how to drive on it, and thanks to it, I learned how to deal with engines and mechanicals in general. I have countless amount of stories that can be told related to this bike, but there probably won't be enough storage on old YouTube to share everything. This bike deserves respect, at least because it has been withstanding me for 11 years, and before that, it withstanded my father for 20 years. Alright, let's stop yakking and go for a ride. You wouldn't believe if I told you how much I love this bike. Looks like someone drained the sediment from